Representative Melissa Ratcliff, thank you so much for joining us today. So we are talking about three different bills. Two were just introduced last week, SB480 and SB479. And then we will discuss also AB 377, which is the trans athlete bill. All of this came through really quickly, it seemed. Very, very under the radar.
Yes.
We expect these things, but...
Right. No, yeah. There was really no whiff that they were coming out, right? I mean, that's kind of how it operates. But we all knew they were coming, right? Yeah. So while we were hoping that they wouldn't do these types of bills, they're basically predictable. And so that's why I worked with my colleague, Representative Ryan Clancy, to form a caucus, the TPANIC, the Transgender Parent and Non-Binary Advocacy Caucus, to be prepared to fight back against these bills, and show that we support our transgender and non-binary community and are here for you all, and to support our youth, because it's really important, right? Like, to show that there are people in the Capitol that care, that see you, that see our youth, and understand that everybody's entitled to basic human rights of being yourself. So,
yeah, I find it so disconcerting that the Republicans keep coming after some of the most vulnerable people. Yeah. And what SB 480 essentially says is that any person that they're going to cease healthcare, trans-affirming, gender-affirming care for any individual that's under 18. And also, I believe that's in 479, that's essentially saying that if a doctor harms anybody during care, whether mentally or physically, that they can have a civil suit brought against them. Yeah. Like, it's just, one, a gross overreach, and two, disturbing that a parent make a exactly. And a parent can't make a decision with their doctor for the care that their child should receive.
Right. It's not a doctor making this decision on their own. It's not a parent making this decision on their own. And it's not a child making the decision on their own, right? Like, this is a combination of a child saying who they are and want to represent themselves as to the world. And it's the parent understanding their child's needs and going to the doctor to get more information, to make the right decisions, healthcare decisions for their child, so that they don't have mental health issues. I mean, when you're being suppressed and not being able to represent yourself to the world as you are, that causes mental health issues. And the lack of information out there about transgender children, transgender people, and what happens with transitioning is unfortunate, that people think that you can go to the doctor and get a surgery right away. That doesn't happen on anything unless it's an emergency where you have a bone sticking out of your body. I mean, there's no doctor that would perform the surgery the next time they saw the kid, or right then. First off, it's a long process. The doctor makes sure that the child and the parent understand everything that's going on, and the parent needs to sign off on it before any surgery is completed before age 18. And that's how it is when you get your ears pierced too. If a child wants that before 18, right, you got to have the parent sign off. Tattooing. Fortunately, my child didn't want a tattoo before 18, so but it's a decision that should be be between a parent, the child, and the medical professional. We don't need to have politicians in the doctor's office with people. And it all comes back to controlling people, which is why it goes to abortion access too, taking away that right for a person to have bodily autonomy. We're seeing them come after our kids now, and it's not okay. And we're going to keep fighting against it.
Thank you. You mentioned that there's not enough information, and I think there is way too much disinformation out there around transgender people's experiences. And if we know anything, is that if they come after our children, they're going to come after us next.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Where does this stop, and how do we impede this process for the Republicans who are trying to push through irresponsible and harmful bills?
Right. And they have more than 50 votes, right? So they can maybe pass what they want to do. And it's really fortunate that we have Governor Evers, who has come out very strongly against these bills, these anti-trans bills, and says that he will veto any of these things that make it through. It's important that we hear from voices, though, in opposition, showing that it's not okay to put these forward, and you can't just put them forward without any repercussions of people saying it's not okay. And we have more than a third of Assembly Democrats to stop any veto override as well. But the really important thing is the maps need to change. Gerrymandering affects so many different levels. And gerrymandering, for those that aren't quite sure what that means, it's the districts are mapped out, made specifically for one party or the other to have more control, more majority. So you build in more Republicans into a district over Democrats, and with the way our digital access is, like, computers can design it so that they know exactly where to do the lines. And that's why we have Republican control of 64 64 district seats, assembly seats, and only 35 Democrat seats, even though statewide races, it's over 50% with Governor Evers and Josh Kaul and Secretary of State. Those races, we're a more purple state than what our assembly currently reflects, and that's because of gerrymandering. Changing the map so that we can have fair elections, elections, basically, for the people to decide based on the candidate and what their viewpoints and values are. That will do a lot in helping us to put forward actual bills that help our state rather than going after our youth. I mean, there's a lot of issues in our state right now that we should be focusing on rather than going after a marginalized community.
Right. Housing,
affordable and accessible childcare. Childcare is a huge issue. And we're sitting on this $4 billion surplus right now. But rather than focus on the real issues, the Republicans are going after our youth. Yeah. And they won't stop at transgender kids either, or transgender people, right? They're coming after the abortion access, reproductive health care. And so it's all about control, really. So we all need to keep fighting back.
Yeah. All queer people will be next in line. Marriage equality will be taken. Like, if things go the way they are now, those things are real possibilities for Wisconsinites.
Yeah, and that's scary. And that's why we all need to just keep working and pushing back. And all elections matter across the state and at the local level too. School board races, village board, town board, city council, they're all important.
Let's pivot to AB 377, which is the anti-trans athlete or the trans athlete ban. There's a hearing this Wednesday that they announced right in the middle of us doing work about the bills that they introduced last week. They announced a hearing for Wednesday at 10 a.m. at the Capitol. And tell us what you're expecting from this hearing.
Well, if it's based on previous bills that were brought forward in other sessions, there'll be a lot of pushback on them all, and pushback from support allies of our transgender community. And it's likely that each person will only be allowed a short time, like a minute or two, to give testimony in support of our transgender community and against these bills. They'll have their experts testify first, and they'll have the people in support of the bills testify first. But there is also going to be representatives testifying against it. I will be there along with some of my colleagues as well, pushing back against these awful bills. It's going to be a long day, but we do just know that there are people in the Capitol that do support the LGBTQ community, and we will all be stronger together.
Yes. Representative Ratcliff, thank you so much for your time and your perspective on this. And we will touch base soon again.
Yes, thank you for your work, Nina. I love your name so much.
Thanks.